What's up guys, my name is Lex Veldhuis and welcome to another episode of Learn with Lex. Today we're going to jump straight into the $5 marathon. It's really long blind levels and I'm hoping to show you guys some deep stack decisions. Of course, we're going to show you guys every single decision. In the top left, you can see how long the tournament's been running. Every decision revealed. If we fold, we explain why, and if we play a hand, we also explain why. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, and straight into the first hand. So everybody's really deep still. This is the start of the tournament. The deeper players are, the bigger we're going to raise it. We're going to make it 2.5 big blinds. We don't really need to go any higher than that. But it's really good to notice. If we all have around 20 big blinds, then we can min raise. If we all have around 30 big blinds, you can 2.2. Of course, you can change these settings. If you go to the PokerStars menu, you can change them in settings, gameplay, bet slider. Over there, you will see the options that you have. Generally, Ace-King is going to be a very tough hand for you guys to play. Lots of questions come in always about Ace-King. And we just take it down, which is fine. All right, in our next hand here, we just called a small blind. We see our middle pair on the flop. So there were no raises pre-flop, which definitely takes some queens away. We don't want to immediately start betting, though, because then we're pretty much saying that we have a hand stronger than Jack-9 and we're repping a queen, which makes it harder to get paid off with. Over here, though, I'm just going to fold. I do expect people to call pre-flop and not raise with some hands like Queen-Jack, some Queen-10. If there's a bet and a call on this board, I'm just going to get out. Another important little detail in this hand is the fact that we are going to be out of position the entire duration against two people. So we will have the least info out of all three. Of course, there's a flush draw as well, which could come into play. So we're just going to get out of danger there. All right, over here, Ace-10. We can definitely call in position. One thing you want to take into account when you are calling in position is how many people behind you have position on you. Obviously, the button has position on everybody because they get last say every hand. That's what position means. Out of position has to speak first. The less people you have behind you, the easier it is to call because there's less re-raises coming or less people joining the pot when they have position on you. Alright, small bet takes it down. Remember, in multi-way pots, you can bet pretty small. It's a very nice way to steal easy pots. The people that are first to act always have people behind them. And that really constricts their decisions in terms of like how light they can call, how many moves they can make on you. So small bets are key in multi-way pots. Over here we have Ace Queen. Everybody's super deep, so we're gonna make it 2.5 big blinds. Obviously the first thing we notice. So I don't want to give these players a chance at a free turn. If they call, then I'm going to be more convinced that they might have something like a king. They could still have a jack as well, but at least we're making them pay for it. I'm just going to check back now. Let's call. And I think that a lot of it is going to be shown on the river. If they did have a king, I think they go up a little bit. People love that like 1-1-4 or something nonsense. It's actually pretty tempting to raise here because they are going to have hands like Jack-10 a lot. I'm actually going to go for some extra value. If they do have a king, you can chalk it up to bad luck and they just misplayed their hand massively anyway, not getting any value. But I do think that if you show they bet 1 big blind, call a 5 big blind raise, bet 1 big blind again on the turn. Obviously, what's really important is that on the turn, what they could be trying to achieve here is induce another raise by the 1 big blind bet. I raised the 1 big blind bet on the flop, and this is a very important game dynamic to understand. They're trying to go for repeat behavior, right? On the flop I got raised, maybe it works again. But then when I don't do that, this bet just becomes insanely weak because this didn't work on the turn, right? So psychologically, this is not something that people are going to try and go for again. So that's why I raise, because now I just think that they have a hand like Jack-10, Queen-Jack, some Jack-X nonsense. Maybe they have a hand like Queen-9. Don't know, don't care. The betting pattern is super weak, so I need to get some value with Ace-Queen. If I have a hand like Queen-Jack or Queen-9 and I might not beat many other hands that they can have, now I'm just going to call. So the ace is definitely key in this regard. Okay, so we're really deep. We're going to make it 3.5. We're really deep here. Bad board for us. Just gonna check back, see what happens. That's always a good card. Makes ace-x a little bit scared. Check it down. There's no point to get value here, I think, because ace-x is gonna be scared of the king, and we just take down the pot, which is fine. Over here, I'm actually pretty tempted to make a move. Nice! Took it away from me there. Pretty tempting to make a move. You see a lot of calls at these stakes, which people don't balance at all. And when I say balancing, I mean that they make sure they have good hands as well as bad hands. It's just usually pretty bad hands or some omega nuts like aces. Amazing. Or some of the omega nuts like aces or something. And you do see people raise a lot against limpers because they like to attack the weakness, right? You always have a little bit more aggressive players at every stake, and they are going to make a move at it. Once this player on the button called, I just didn't think that they would have anything either, because they're supposed to exercise some strength to get some value from those hands. I think flat calling with ace-king suited as they did is a huge mistake, because you're just not getting enough value from your hand. So we see somebody call, we see the raise, we see a call, and I was just gonna make a 2000 here because I can just call it off versus them anyway, because I get really good odds on an extra 2000, and I don't believe this is anything big, this is anything big. And on top of that, which is really important, my hand blocks really strong hands. I block ace-king, aces, ace-queen, as well as tens. So sometimes you see a situation, when you see this situation, you might think like, oh, this player is weak, this player is probably not going to have anything, they would have raised all their strong hands, excellent situation to bluff. But if you have 8-9 suited, it's just not that appetizing to bluff. So you really want to make sure that you do this with hands that you don't necessarily see a lot of value in flat calling with, but they might have good capabilities to bluff with. And I think ace-10 fits that box perfectly in this situation, but in a lot of other situations as well. There's not a whole lot of value to play ace-10 4-way to a flop here, so I would have definitely thought that this was a good move. Now, it wouldn't have worked, but that doesn't mean it's not a good move. So we raised from under the gun. We're going to call along. I don't think that there's any reason to raise here with pocket eights. In fact, I think it would be a little bit of a waste of our hand to raise with pocket eights, because it just plays so well multi-way. It's very easy. We have position on everybody. If we flop an 8, we're golden. We can just play for stacks instantly. If the button behind us goes all in and everybody folds, we get a very easy call. It's just a very easy to play pairs this way. The only time when you might want to start considering raising some hands like 8s or 9s is when you're in the blinds in a similar situation like this. And only then I would still advise to use mostly 9s or 10s, especially when you're not that experienced at playing like big 3-bet pots, or when you should call all-ins when they go all in on you. Over here, we're just going to fold. Very large continuation bet. I think that every one of you guys would fold this as well, so don't need to go too much in depth there. Guys, if you're looking for a place to talk poker, I have just the place for you. I have my own poker Discord. We can talk about anything, strategy, the poker news. You can share your brags, your beats, you can ask me for advice, or you can just chat to random people about poker. You will also be notified when I go live and when there's a new video out. So check the link in the description, join the Discord, and see you there. We're gonna raise King Jack. We can open King Jack pretty much from any position. If you're at a really tough table in one of your highest buy-ins, then King Jack can become a fold under the gun. Other than that, Queen Jack kind of has the same properties. King Jack and Queen Jack play the same from most positions. They call the small blind as many times, they open under the gun as many times, and both are a pure open when you're under the gun +1. I would have folded versus the 20 big blind stack. Very important, and of course a 100 big blind insta re-isolate, which kind of makes me think they have ace king a lot. This is, you know, you can't be that horny when you it's really good to take a second, right? Let's say I would have had 10s and I see a 20 big blind shove, and you're like, okay, that's already pretty strong, and somebody just insta shoves instantly for 100 big blinds. They're so happy to go all in, right? Oftentimes, I have to say, it will be ace king, because people have this subconscious idea that they need to de-incentivize people from entering the pot, right? You want to discourage somebody with ace king. You want the pocket 9s out. You want the pocket 10s out. So it's like, boom, here's all my money. And that's how people will often do it. But still, you just take your fucking time. Relax. We're going to raise here. in the cutoff, 5 for suited. Definitely want to open every suited connector. Well, this is the lowest one actually, but all the ones above it, we definitely want to open. Couldn't be happier with this flop. Still very valuable for us. I'm just gonna raise. It'd be great to get better hands out. This is the same guy, yeah. At this point, even when they go all in, we can call. That's how strong our draw is. With all the money in the pot, that's very important to remember. I'm just gonna raise. We know from the last pot that we played against them that our 1 big blind lead is just something to keep the pot small, and we're just not gonna play that game. So we're gonna raise. We're gonna put some strength. Make sure though, when you raise draws or bet draws in position, you don't want to do it with the ones where you have to fold versus an all-in. It's an awful, awful amount of value that you have in the pot to fold. So that's why you can bet ace-high draws or raise them a lot in position, especially bet, because if people go all in, you can call, because if they have a draw, you're always going to have the better one. Whereas if you have a 5-high flush draw, you don't really want to call their all in because you don't really have the odds, and when they have a draw, they even beat yours. So be careful of that. Ace-6 suited. Again, we said it in the last videos. It's actually funny, you guys mentioned a lot in the comments and when you come in my channel that it was so... there was a lot of clarity that you open any suited ace from any position except for ace deuce when it's under the gun. I also want to give a little bit of an addition to that because under the gun is different when there's 6 players at the table. So if there's only 6 players, then technically under the gun becomes this position, right? And you can still open. So in a full table, you can open any ace except for under the gun. There's a horrible board, and we're just going to proceed with a check. So what's really important to remember is that this position plays hands that do well versus us. It's going to consist of a lot of king queen, king jack, queen jack, ace 10, ace jack. I'm going to mention a million hands that are going to do really well on this board. That's why on king queen, king 10, queen 10 type of boards, we want to check a lot as a preflop raiser when somebody in position has called us. One of the reasons being they play a group of hands that matches up well with the group of hands we play from there. Technically, right, if they play a group of hands that plays well versus us, this means that we're going to have to check a lot. Because on a lot of boards, they're going to have an advantage, or we miss a lot, or we're out of position. When we check a lot in general, that also means that we're going to have to check our strongest hands a lot. So if I have a hand like king jack on this board, I'm often checking this as well for the exact same reasons, right? That means that if we're going to check a lot of top pairs or ace queen here, we can't really continuation bet this bluff very often either. So it's really, really important. This is even more true when there's a flush draw on board, just because they have more hands that can continue. But on dry king high and ace high boards, you can still bet a lot as a preflop raiser. So a dry king high board would be king 6-4 or something, right? Rainbow. That would be a dry king high board. But king queen is already a lot more concentrated. And these are just the hands that you are going to see a whole lot. Now, I'm not saying that you should check folds. I'm just saying you should proceed with some caution. So there's a player missing. This is what I meant with, under the gun earlier, that it's not always technically under the gun. Now it's under the gun +1. When we have 4s, we're still going to raise 50 big blinds. If we get like 35 big blinds, we start folding 4s. Deuces and 3s, you play even more tight. But now we're so deep that we can still open it. Board is super dry, but playing against 2, I think there's too big of a chance that somebody's going to call. So again, we're going to take it easy. You see me take it easy a lot, but this is just what you have to do when you're out of position, and we can assess accordingly when we move along in the hand. I'm just going to fold here. And there seems to be a lot of giving up in these situations, and that's what we're doing. But it's really important to remember, just throwing money in there in situations where you don't have a lot of fold equity isn't really going to help you either. All right, and we're going to play the last hand to round out the video. Here we have ace king. We're going to make it 2.2. Everybody has approximately 40 big blinds. There's only one stack, and it's not even a real short stack. So there's a good, effective stack size to play. Versus the big blinds, you want to be really careful when there's a low card paired. This doesn't apply to the deuce or the 3 being paired as much. But when this is 2 5s, you want to start checking a lot. And the reason for this is that they're going to have 6-5 offsuit, 5-4 offsuit, 7-5 suited, 8-5 suited, 9-5 suited, ace-5 offsuit. All these hands that you yourself are not going to have. So that means that on a paired board, the big blind has a huge advantage. Now, The one thing I will say is that at lower stakes, people will not capitalize on it. But if you play a little bit higher stakes or you run into a tough regular, when you play a $40 tournament, they're going to make your life hell on those boards because they know I have an advantage and they're just going to blast at you. So make sure that you are aware of that. And I think moving up in stakes, that's going to be really important to think like, why are these boards always so tough? Well, that process starts on the flop. Now, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I think we got to play some interesting hands. I think that it's really important, especially when we looked at that min bet that the person led with, like what are the reasons somebody is doing something and how do we play back at that and how does our hand fit into that, right? Same with the ace-10 hand. It's really important to kind of understand what everybody's motive is in that hand and also pick the right hand to attack in those situations. Because if you're just going to pick a random hand with no capabilities, then we're just always firing off at people that might seem weak to us. So make sure there's a structure in your play. If you have any questions, you can ask them. As always, I try to get back to all the comments on these videos. I really enjoy the positive feedback that you guys are giving, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because there's a lot more coming. All right, peace out and thank you.